Ennyi. Csak ez van.
Nagyon sokszor tudunk, ha még átírjuk, most gyorsan, hogy welcome our esteemed guests.
Ja, ezt nem tudod átírni. Ez nem szerkeszthető. Ez egy kép. Nincs angolom. Gábornak, ha van, de nem.
Hát akkor marad a magyar.
Magyar. Nincsen, nem készültük semmiféle. Egyébként is semmivel, másrészt meg nem tudom.
All right. Excellencies, distinguished guests, thank you very much for your patience. I would like to welcome Mr. György Hölvényi, MP for the European Parliament, Professor Dr. Zoltán Kovács, Vice Rector for Education and Science at the Hungarian University of Agriculture and Life Sciences, MATE. I would like to also welcome the representatives of the diplomatic corps, dear colleagues, dear guests, dear students. I would like to first of all ask Professor Kovács to deliver his welcome speech and open the event, today's event.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, honorable representatives of the European Parliament, distinguished experts, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor and pleasure to welcome you today on behalf of the Hungarian University of Agriculture and Life Sciences, or you may know we call ourselves MATE. We are especially proud to host this international conference in cooperation with the Development Committee of the European Parliament, particularly with the strong support of Mr. György Hölvényi, Member of Parliament, Advocate of Education and Development in the Sub-Saharan region. We are grateful to all our distinguished guests, ambassadors, diplomatic representatives, experts, researchers, and institutional partners who have joined us in person or online. The topic that brings us together today is not only scientific, agricultural, or technological. It is deeply human. Drought, water scarcity, irregular rainfall, and extreme weather events are no longer distinct risks. They are already reshaping the lives of communities, the security of food systems, and the future of entire regions. Nowhere is this challenge more visible, more urgent than in Africa. Africa has extraordinary agricultural potential, and parallel to that, there is an impressive growth in population. It has land, knowledge, young generations, and communities whose future can be strengthened only through innovation, cooperation, and sustainable development. Yet, this potential is under increasing pressure. Extreme weather conditions, insufficient irrigation systems, limited access to modern technologies, and the lack of heat and drought-resistant crop varieties all create serious obstacles to stable food systems. At the same time, agriculture remains one of the strongest pillars of employment, livelihood, and economic development across the continent. Therefore, when we speak about drought prevention, precision agriculture, seed research, irrigation, and modern farming technologies, we are not only speaking about production figures. We are speaking about food security, rural development, job creation, social stability, and the dignity of communities that depend on agriculture. This is why today's conference is so important. We strongly believe that the fight against drought cannot be won by isolated actions. It requires science, technology, education, practical experts, and above all, partnership. Europe and Africa must work together, not in a one-direction model, but in genuine cooperation. European research and technological innovation must meet African practical knowledge, local experience, and real implementation. at MATE, this is precisely how we understand our role. Our university is one of the largest and most comprehensive agriculture and life sciences institutes in Central Europe. We bring together knowledge in plant production, water management, soil science, seed research, animal science, environmental sustainability, food system, precision technologies, and rural development, or we can say from farm to fork and beyond. This integrated structure gives us a special responsibility, but of course also a special opportunity to contribute to global challenges with practical science-based solutions. We strongly believe agriculture depends on connecting research with practice. Scientific knowledge must instantly reach the field. Innovation must serve farmers. Technologies must be adapted to local realities. This is why MATE gives special importance to pilot projects, demonstration farms, applied research, and international training programs. These are the platforms where ideas become measurable results. In our cooperation with our African partners, we see enormous potential, not only in academic exchange, but also in project-based, marketing-oriented cooperation. Hungarian agriculture knowledge, water management expertise, seed research, digital technologies, and practical education and others can create value when they are combined with African priorities and local implementation capacity. Our goal is not to offer ready-made answers from a distance. The goal is to build solutions together. Currently, there are nearly 2,000 international students from 113 countries studying at MATE. About 45% of our foreign students are from Africa. Today's event is therefore indeed to be more than a conference. It is a perfect platform for dialogue between Europe and Africa, a space where diplomacy, science, policy, and practical agriculture knowledge could meet. A moment where we can identify concrete areas for cooperation, from research and education to pilot projects, capacity building, technology transfer, and long-term institutional partnerships. Dear ladies and gentlemen, our university is proud to host this event and stands ready to play an active role in this cooperation. We are here to share our knowledge, to learn from our partners, and to build a bridge between scientific excellence and practical implementation. It is our firm belief that universities should not only analyze global problems, but must also act solving them. It is my sincere hope that this forum will open new doors for collaboration, deepen trust between our institutions, and pave the way for concrete initiatives to strengthen African food systems. I wish to express my gratitude to the Development Committee of the European Parliament for our partnership, the organizers, and to our distinguished guests and partners for their commitment. Special thanks to our speakers for sharing their insights and knowledge. I wish everyone a truly productive and inspiring conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Rector. And indeed, this event is quite in need, and on time. We are very glad that we could fill this room. I would like to ask Mr. György Hölvényi to also deliver his speech and deliver his keynote speech. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon already, and sorry to be late. Yeah, but you know, somebody is between Brussels, Budapest, and the weekend already should be in Johannesburg. This is really, it's a very occupied schedule. Sorry for that, but I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to see that we were able to bring the people together, the right people, and on the right way. And this is, I think, is what we have to do. That is really the only things that we have a great partner with the Matte, and thank you, Vice Rector Kovac, for the hospitality, and thank you for David Bekish, who is the special advisor to the rector and former diplomat. We know each other, by the way, not from here, but we know each other from Accra, from Ghana. And you see, it's for a lot of people in Hungary, Africa is important. Africa is important, and this reason I mostly welcome the representatives of the different kind of embassies from African countries. Excellence, is really good to see you here, and I think it's very important to share with you one thing. We are not Germany. We are not England, Great Britain. We are not France. And we didn't have any formal colonial past. And we would like to see very general form to turn to advantage through different kind of credible form of cooperation. Of course, we need the business as well, as you as well. And this is a big opportunity for all. It is my personal belief and experience in Central Europe, and mainly that is one of the reasons that you are so many foreigner students here in Gödöllő and other part of Hungary as well. And of course, you should ask me why this European parliamentarian is here. I am here, it's a simple reason. I am more than 10 years very active member of the Development Committee in the European Parliament, and I'm focusing absolutely to Africa. And Africa, and mere understandable the Africans for Europe, and for Europe the Africans. But what we can do, it's only to do something on the credible way. Credible way, that means concretely. And this is a good example today. I am really happy about, and the great honor for me to introduce the keynote speaker, Joanna Yarend Iteo, who is a gentleman, the horticultural specialist. And really, he currently works as a farm manager and consultant, leading large-scale agriculture projects, training farmers in the climate-smart practices, and managing diverse crops such as grapes, avocados, and cashew nuts across the multiple regions of Tanzania. And this is for us the great opportunity. As for Hungarians, they are here. There's also one-to-one what is your experience, Joanna, and how do you see the possible form of cooperation? But concretely, we met first at the edge of the maize field, you know, and where he was demonstrating the local farmers. They are not in the easy situation. Results can be achieved through different cultivation methods. And that was the concrete facts. And through this perspective, we can gain the unfiltered understanding how an African, especially in this case, in Tanzanian expert view, the agriculture of Africa and his home country. And let me highlight what this initiative is so important. Sub-Saharan Africa is facing critical challenges related to extreme weather conditions. Severe droughts can lead to loss of 30% and sometimes even up to 70% of harvest. According to the FAO estimates, around 15% of the agriculture value lost due to extreme weather events, particularly only in East Africa. Meanwhile, yeah, around 90 million people of Eastern and Southern Africa are facing real hunger, 90 million. At a time when the traditional major donors are increasingly shifting spending toward military priorities rather than development financing, it's a fact. It's also important to note that nearly on 1/5 of global food aid comes in East Africa. This is a dramatic picture, but not hopeless one. As the Vice Rector mentioned, the potential. Africa holds approximately 50 to 60% of the world uncultivated arable land, between 200 and 400 million hectares. 200 and 400 million hectares. This is comparable to or even exceeds the total total farmland in Europe. However, African countries still spend around $70 billion annually on food imports, money imports. While 60% of the population employed in agriculture, only about 70% of the cultivated land is irrigated. This is the huge untapped potential. And 1 year ago, I had the opportunity to travel to Kondoa, to Tanzania, where I show firsthand the local solutions combined with the right incentives can bring about the meaningful change. What's happened? That's really there, yeah? With the support of it's a concrete Catholic diocese on the leadership of the Bishop Bernardine Mustafa in Kondoa, a comprehensive agriculture project changed the people really livelihoods and improved their prospects of the future. What began with the cultivation of drought-resistant maize has since extended to today 135 hectares are under cultivation. 135, yeah? This is a clear, tangible example for in Africa, the church play a border role as organizers. And we in Europe, we denied it. That's in the church, the role. It's not about believe or not believe, it's more personal, but the potential is huge. It's a very good example. Allow me really to conclude furthermore the spontaneous way. One of the sources. For the past 10 years, I have been a member of the development committee in the European Parliament, which focusing on Africa. Really, my target was and is, and I hope it will be as well for the next time, understand Africa, understand Africa, and build genuine cooperation. But without Africans, it's absolutely impossible. This is the reason that we invited the gentleman here with us as a real expert, and really, I am really appreciate absolutely again that you were able to take this opportunity, and thank you for the hospitality of the university, and thank for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And well, I was hesitating because I was very brief in the beginning, and really I don't want to steal the show, and I didn't want to talk much about this event because you will hear more from the presenters and from the guests who are here. But just a little bit of the background, and also I mentioned, and I'm very glad that we could fill this room, and I'm positive that we could even fill quite bigger rooms as well. But I'm more happy that I see familiar faces from not only from the academia, but as I mentioned, the diplomatic corps, and also I see different members from development agencies, from from private sector. Familiar faces, we worked together in the past years, and it's not a secret, it's an initiative with what was mentioned by our Vice Rector and the Honorable Member of the Parliament, European Parliament. Malta University is very key to bring together the stakeholders from all the areas, as mentioned earlier, private sector, academia as well, and think tanks. So it's an initiative we started back some years ago, and actually exactly a year ago we decided that after the different initiatives we continued, for instance, our demonstration farm in Kenya, different other field activities in different sub-Saharan areas, different sub-Saharan countries. You will hear some stories from the colleagues, so that's why I say that I don't want to be lengthy, just to have the context. We decided to bring over some expertise to the university, to have some pilot knowledge transfer and practical collaboration. That's how we selected one gentleman as the pilot, as the very first of this kind. So that's why it's a privilege and honor to have our guest from Tanzania. Our aim is to introduce him, our potential. We do it with different other countries, and we hope that in the near future we will have more experts and groups who are coming, and we will receive on different topics and start the interactions. Then when they return to their countries, to their regions, then they will be able to share this knowledge, and we will be able to interact in the future. For today's event, we invited some stakeholders from our different leading or key projects or programs, and they will share with you their expertise, mainly focusing in the African or sub-Saharan region. First of all, I would like to ask Mr. Ioana Iaraditeo to share his experiences and also to deliver his keynote speech and share the presentation. Thank you so much.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Yeah, let me say the oral protocols are observed there. I'm not a politician, so, but at least I can speak something. Yeah, let me first say thank you very much for what you have done with me, Mr. George. Yeah, of course, through your support and Malta University, this is the first time for me to be in Europe, and to be specific in Hungary. So I'm blessed, and for this really 3 or 4 days I have been here, I have taken a lot, and I'm thirsty to go back my home and to do what I'm supposed to do with farmers. So I will take you through what we are doing there in Tanzania, and of course Tanzania represents almost the most of the African countries, and especially East African countries. So we have been in the challenge of drought and climate change, and also we have been doing various practices. So I will let you see what we are doing there. And this is not an academic presentation, it's just the experience-based presentation. So, and I have put it in a simple way so that anyone can understand, even though if you are not an agricultural expert, at least you will get something, and I hope also to collect a lot of ideas from you. So let's get into. So this is the content, my profile. It has been introduced by George, so I will not take much time to that. I have put just some pictures. You see, this when you go back here, this is the challenge. You will see most pictures. You see the cow dye, the soil, you see this one. But still also there are some practices that can make us to survive. So these are just some crops in the cover page. So I will take you through about Tanzania. Just I want you to know a little things. Then we will have to look at the agricultural overview in Tanzania. Of course, it represents the whole East African country and other part of African countries. Then we will see the drought impacts, the causes. Then this is the major part, the climate smart practices that we are doing, which are simple to be adopted. And I see you are good in technology, but we are not good in technology, but we are trying to break down those practices in a simple way that any farmer can adopt it. You have opportunity to bring technology, but if you get these ideas, the simple practices we are doing, you can convert them into machinery so that you can get also opportunity to sell machineries in Africa. This is the major part we will concentrate, the key strategies, and then of course the challenges of these practices, and then the proposed solutions. And then we will discuss together if we have time. So that's me. I'm a horticulturalist by expert, and I graduated from Sokoine University of Agriculture. It was 2016, so more than 10 years now, and I'm working with farmers. Also, I got opportunity to go into, I visited Israel, and there I get the opportunity to learn precision agriculture, the most sophisticated farming technologies. And then after I went back, and I tried to break down those technologies into a simple way that can be adopted by most of Tanzanian farmers, and to be specific, Kondoa and other parts also. But also I do training in various parts of Tanzania. You know, in Tanzania we have around 7 agroecological zones. We have that receive much rain, and also the other part receive just little. It's semi-desert, especially the place where I come from, Dodoma, the central part of Tanzania. And also we have the northern zone, where now the experience of drought are also there, it's in. But previous, there were a lot of rains, but now no. So I do also move in different parts of Tanzania just to share what we do. So this is not important. So this is Tanzania, and you see, so here it shows the zones. This is lake zone close to Kenya and Uganda, our neighbor. Then this is also, and we have this all the zones, southern zone, eastern zone, here it's Dar es Salaam, Morogoro, Tanga, it's in this. And also we have the southern zone, this one. Yeah. And we have, of course, some things to enjoy in Tanzania when you visit, please. We have more than 21 national parks, and also they are suffering with the drought. But also we have more than 28 game reserves, 5 major lakes, including Lake Victoria, Lake Tanganyika. So please, when you get time visit, you will be also able to see lions in national parks. We have beaches also, especially in Zanzibar and Dar es Salaam. And of course, the biggest mountain in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro. Please, if you get time, visit it and enjoy it. So also cultural issues. Yesterday I enjoyed a varieties of food there during the event. Please, if maybe in the future we'll have a lot of students from Tanzania and they will be able to bring some cultural issues. This is the wagogo in Dodoma, and this is the food. It's a very delicious. It's a kind of pumpkin, we call it maboga. So in the future, probably you will get it here at the event as we saw yesterday. Now, this is an agricultural overview. It's really, the sector is very important in our country, and of course in most of the East African countries. It contributes more than 25% of the total GDP of our country. Also, it employs over 65% of the workforce. And now, according to the last census, we are around 61 million Tanzanians. So most of the population is in the sector. And the export contribution, it's around 30% of the total export. And also yesterday I was able to see even some fruit, the avocado, they come from Tanzania. And they're very delicious. Please taste them. And also the growing growth in the processing, I see some factories now they're coming. Although we are still behind in processing, there is a huge opportunity to the processing. In case for the food security, of course, we need to promote these sustainable practices to ensure that the production is good. And also the key food crops have maize, rice, cassava, beans, and the other horticultural crops. For example, onion, we grow tomato, and the other leaf vegetable crops. And the potential land, as in Tanzania, we have over 44 million hectares. Their potential to be cultivated. But out of that, only 15 million hectares, they are under cultivation. And this is mostly dominated by smallholder farmers with the local practices. And out of these 15 millions, only 3% they are under irrigation. You can see how the potential is if you want to say some irrigation materials in Tanzania. Also, it's a challenge, of course, for food because we are irrigating just a small portion. And we have lakes, we have rivers, we have a lot of water resources we can do irrigation. So, and now drought impacts. Yeah, this is maize. Mostly of the crops is cultivated in Tanzania is maize as the staple food, but now they are suffering a lot. The average yield harvest, most of the farmers they do is 1.8 tons per hectare, but the potential is 5 up to 80 tons if we irrigate, for example, or in the region where there is sufficient rainfall, like the southern part of Tanzania. Mbeya and Njombe, they harvest 5 up to 8 tons. But in the part where there is insufficient rainfall, only we do with sometimes less of 1.8 tons. And now the livestock are starving, they are dying a lot. And you know, we are the top 3 livestock keepers among the African countries. So you can find how potential we have, but most of now of the livestock, they are dying because of this problem of climate change, especially the drought. They die with heat stress, lack of feeds, and also some diseases also they are rising. Now also in the horticulture, these are my tomato. Of course, my farm, George Vincent. Now I have the borehole. I'm doing irrigation. Although I have the borehole, but still because the temperature is increasing more, this year between January and February, we experienced 34 degrees Celsius, which is 5 degrees Celsius more than the previous. So now this was the first flower from the tomato. Most of them they were suffering from blossom end rot because of heat stress. So although I have water, but now the problem is they are getting much heater. So we try to do some practice. Like now, we are irrigating during the night and the early morning, so that to cope with that challenge. Of course, also diseases. You see, this is some pests because of temperature increase. This is grapes. We have some grape farms, vines, and they suffered from thrips. And this was last year because of temperature increase. So most of the thrips, there were a very huge population of thrips, and very difficult to control them because when you spray, they don't die, and they keep reproducing. So also it's a great challenge. But you also export challenges. You know, in my farm this year, I tested to grow onion, and usually we sell them in our neighbor from Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, and Burundi. But because this year we didn't receive also much rain from October to January. So usually the window market for onion, it appears from March to April. And when the buyers from Kenya, they called farmers in Tanzania, no much onion, so they didn't come. So I grow the onion and I take them to the market by using drip irrigation and no buyers. So there is also export challenges because of reduction of volume for export, also quality standards, fluctuation of market prices, and of course, farmer lose income stability. Like me, I lose a lot from my farm. And the other, so we have also the causes. So just I have pinpointed just a few which are practical in our area. We have a lot of causes, but this is the major cause, deforestation. Most of the Tanzanian farmers, maybe also in some of the East African countries, when they think of increasing volume of production, they think of expanding the size of the farm. And they like it to go into a virgin land. So they clear much of the plants. And we know plants are very necessary for rainfall formation. They keep also, they shade the land, so they keep moisture. So after clearing, then they leave the land bare, which bring much problem for evaporation and poor soil quality, and then no rain. So this is the problem, the major cause in our country. Unpredictable rainfall pattern. You see, this is George. They visited my farm last year on February. It was drought. But this year, the same farm, this is the same farm you visited. On February, there were intense rainfall. So some of my tomatoes, they were washed away by the rains. So you find the same season, different year. Of course, you can't predict. So it becomes much challenges. So also shorter rain season, intense rain followed by dry spell, reduced total annual rainfall. It's a challenge, of course. Now, climate smart practices or agriculture. So when you do these practices, of course, they increase productivity. Also, they adapt to climatic challenges, and they mitigate, of course. So this is intercropping practices. This is also from my farm. It's maize growing together with the beans. So the beans, they act like plant live cover. They cover, so that there is no direct sunrise to the soil. So somehow the moisture retain, but also they are plant fixing agent. They fix nitrogen, so it becomes much better. And this also, we call it minimum tillage practice. So you just do a small hole, and then you put manure, and you put seed. When the rain comes, those holes harvest water, and then it can retain up to 2 weeks, no rain, but still the crop perform well. And this is now the modern farming techniques. Like this is the drip irrigation. Also, it's in the farm where George visited. The drip I'm doing, and these there were just ladies, they were planting in the farm. Also, we have this water management, like this is a drip irrigation in the vines, and also this is a dam liner, so just to conserve water. And this is I can say a Tanzanian practice, we call it fanyaju. You just do a terraces when the farm is it has some terrain up and down. You do the terrace from the upper part and then the lower part. And when rain comes, this terrace harvests water, as you see here. And then the water seep down the soil. So the crop nearby, they get water from the soil. So it's really working, and it improved most of the farms. And this is a dam. Also, it reduces pest disease, crop diversification. It's a practice also. And the importance, it reduces pests. When for example, this is a pea millet. I call it climate smart crop because this variety, it's really resistant to most of the climatic challenges, like its resistance to temperature. It's very difficult to feel the temperature, but also it is resistant to most of the insects, which is the challenge during warmer. But also this can perform even in a poor soil. Like here it is growing in a sandy soil, but you see it is doing very well. So also this, I do encourage farmers to do, to diverse different crops rather than concentrating on one crops year or season after season. And this is tomato and irrigation also. And these ladies, they are working in the farm. But also soil health and fertilities, especially the manure. The manure nowadays is very important because it retains moisture. At the same time, it provides nutrients. But the most basic thing for me, I usually see the impact of moisture retention. If you put more manure in the farm, you will find even if it will not rain for 3 weeks, you find still the crops are still green. And you compare just with the near farms, the crops are dying or wilting. So and the best manure is the cow dung manure, which is well rotted. Like here, so here it's a preparation, you spread, and then here you see, then you incorporate it with the tractor or by using hand hoe, then you plant it. But also community engagement, I say, I do also training. This was in the nearby district from Kondoa, it's called the Bahi. And this is a sandy soil. So here we tried, it's called the enclosed ridge techniques. So this is you prepare a ridge, from one ridge to the other, 1 meter, and then you do like a small trench on top of the ridge. Then you put manure here. You see this, they are putting manure. And then you close. You close the ridge between the ridges. And when rain comes, you harvest some water, and there is a sip in a side way. So they find manure, and this is the plot. This farmer, he told me before the practice, he usually harvested sometime 1 bag in a quarter of an acre, or half of a bag of 100 kg in that a quarter of an acre. But yesterday he was harvesting this. He sent me yesterday this picture. He's saying probably this year we'll have in the same plot more than 80 bags, and he's happy because the family will have food for the whole year. So I think he will keep also training other farmers. Yeah, this is also the minimum tillage. It's a sandy soil, as you see. So you make a hole, and then you put manure, and then these holes, they are in zigzag. They are in zigzag because we want, when the rain comes, we want all the water to get into the hole, and because there is manure, so at least the moisture will be retained. And also, we do encourage early maturing varieties, especially the hybrid varieties. You see, this is my boda. The bike I used to spread the seed to the farmers. So I'm taking the seed to the farmers from the diocese to other party of the parishes. And you see, these farmers, they are receiving now quality seeds. We are bringing them, I brought them sunflower hybrid seed also, and maize hybrid seed. And then when you do all these practices, you will have harvest, of course. You see, these are tomatoes from my farm, of course. And this is onion. I showed you the picture. So if you manage to practice all these simple techniques, you will have harvest. And note that there is no single method that can combat the problem. So you need to integrate all these practices. So I usually say you might find in one region there is 3 or 2 practices can be adopted there, and also in other regions you find 2 or 4. So I usually do, what I do usually, I have my own terminology. I say you have to be with the integrated climate smart approaches. So you develop based on the location, based on the soil, based on the people, based on the also the understanding of the people, because in most of the farmers we have challenge, they are not knowledgeable. So you try to put it in a simple way, and also in economic aspects. So you look, you try to I think you understand. Yeah, you get me. So now the challenges of this method, like inadequate road, rural roads, limited extension work can reach the farmers. So it's problem to reach the farmers. You might have, I have passion to reach the farmers, but it's difficult because of the road infrastructure. You see my border, and with this, I have seeds, and this is a planting technology from Chinese, just simple. I'm going to train them. Also, you see here with the diocese car, and also the packaging material. You see, we are using bag instead of a special material that cannot damage the tomato. And also the market infrastructure is poor. As you see here, just the onion are exposed to the sun, and if rain comes, also become a problem. Also, the other challenge, the skills. I can say most of the farmers in Tanzania, the workers, they are not skilled. So it becomes difficult to introduce even technologies. And here I'm suggesting, if possible, it's better maybe to have short programs to the farmers, or to build some training centers so that we can solve the challenge. You see, this is mostly the youth. They are working in a vineyard farm, but they are not skilled, none of them. They know just to read and to write, but they have no basic knowledge of crop production. You see, here am I have, this is a friend from Italy. He came to visit our farm in the diocese. Now he's trying to share knowledge from Italy to Tanzania. Yeah. And of course, financial constraints. Always the technologies need to be financed. So this is the big challenge. And most of the farmers in Tanzania, they don't have collaterals to access the finance. Because like in Tanzania, you need to have a house so that you can use it as a collateral to access money. And most of the farmers, they have poor houses. They're not good, of course. So it's very difficult to access finance so that you can have the technologies. Like we need the solar to run the pumps. This is a digital I have in my farm. I bought just this year. It can analyze wind and also temperature, soil moisture, and all leaf wetness. So I brought it just to access that data, so can switch it to the farmers. And all this, they need money, but it's a problem to access money. Yeah. And then solutions, funding, international grants, if possible. I was yesterday with the professor from the Department of Engineering. He told me in Hungary, farmers have been given some grants based on the land you possess. So if I could be a Hungarian in Tanzania, I have 10 hectares. So I'll be rich probably, but in Tanzania, no. You have nothing to do with your land. They need a house. Or if you have money, and then they will give you money. But if you don't have money, you don't have a house, they will not give you. So also trainings, as I said, of course we need to develop trainings with short programs that can be adopted with any level of farmers. And also we need partnership, yeah, we need to partners so that we can share. As now I have come here just to learn. I'm thirsty to learn a lot. Please, if you can bring me to some farmers to see what they are doing, I will be much happier. And then, yeah, if you have discussion, if you have something, thank you. That's the end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Iona. At the end of the presentations, we will have a Q&A session, so that's why I encourage us to continue with the presentations. In 2021, there was an integration, there was a change in the higher education in Hungary, and that's when some key higher educational institutes were merged or integrated. That's how MATA was created. And besides, as I mentioned, besides having educational programs and being stakeholders in the academia, research quite high quality and also large infrastructure of national agricultural research was merged together and added to this system. And it's important to mention because we have many research institutes and many research sites. Altogether, we have about 10,000 hectares of lands we can use for educational purposes as well, and also for corporate activities. There is, for instance, agricultural activities in seed research and development, in horticulture, but also we have open field activities and we develop different cereals, irrigation, fisheries, aquaculture, and so on and so on. Regarding to the drought and regarding to the climate changes, we have an institute, or we have a center for climate change and development, regional development. It is headquartered based in Karcag, and the director of the institute is here with us today. Thank you very much, Dr. Zsembeli, to join us. I would like to ask you to proceed towards the stage. He just arrived from Kazakhstan, so I'm very happy that he could join us. He's also heading a flagship program which MATA leads. It's a so-called Drought Prevention Institute. We are working together with Professor József Zsembeli. Please welcome him. Please deliver your presentation and some insights.
Thank you for this brief introduction with too many titles of me. Ladies and gentlemen, it's true that I'm suffering from jet lag, so I can hardly speak, so I must apologize. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, and students, I can see some students, I guess, and some potential colleagues, yeah, future colleagues. But I mean potential because I just get an invitation to be a member of the examination board, so maybe it's partly up to me if we will be colleagues or not. But back to the serious part. Actually, I just realized that I will present the Hungarian version of your lecture, yeah, because we have quite similar problems, but of course everything is relative. We are not in Africa, and yeah, we get some subsidy after the land, but you can solve this problem just join the EU, and it's, the problem is solved. Maybe it's a little bit too difficult, and that was the serious part. I'm sorry. But back to the Hungary. So you can see that Hungary is in the Carpathian Basin. I think you know, even the international students know where it is. So we have a special climate. We are at the bottom of a big bowl called the Carpathian Basin, and we often suffer from extremes, and I will talk about drought as well, as one of the extremes. some, as David Békési mentioned, that I'm the director of a research center focusing on climate and rural regional land management. So we try to reveal the agriculture-related and climate-related problems of the Great Hungarian Plain, and we try, of course, we try to find solution for them. Now, just some words about our extremes, because everything is relative. These are our extremes. Just to mention the annual mean temperature, you can see an increasing tendency. We have a weather station since 2004, and now we have more than 20 years of data. We can figure out what are the main tendencies. And some 30, 50 years ago, the annual mean temperature in the Great Hungarian Plain was 10 Celsius. Now it's 11.3. Even 0.1 increase is serious, not more than 1, you can imagine. And this tendency, I think, it's increasing. What about precipitation? I don't know how much precipitation you have. It will still be 500 millimeters in Africa, 500 millimeters, 400 millimeters. So we won. I mean, in a negative way, of course, but we won, yeah. You see the tendency? Increasing temperature and decreasing amount of precipitation. Last year we had just less than 400 millimeters. And even 500 is not enough. If you can see the average, but that's not the main point. The fluctuation is the main point. So the climate change is manifested in Hungary and in my region as the increasing frequency of weather extremes. This is what I teach to my students, and I want to hear it back during the final exam, I think, if you want to succeed, of course. And drought. Of course, higher temperature, lower precipitation, higher potential evapotranspiration. That's the main point. And the annual distribution of precipitation is not favorable, of course, because if we have precipitation out of the vegetation period, it's not useful for the crops. But we have some solutions I will show you later. So the frequency of droughts. During the last 20 years, you can see the years, there was only 1 year without drought. All the others, especially the last ones, 2022, maybe you heard about that, there's a serious drought in Hungary, in the eastern part of Hungary. The yield of corn was 0. Very serious. And also last year and 2024 was very droughty. But we have to talk about the so-called, you mentioned the soil as well. We have to talk about the agroecological conditions involving soil and weather, climate, and better to say the weather. And these two together determine the agroecological conditions, and we have extremes in terms of the hydrological conditions. We also have the same, but almost every year we suffer from excess water within the same year and the same plot. And on the other hand, I'm sorry, I couldn't take photos of dead cattle. We have no giraffes and leopards and lions. We have sheep. But can you see this nice green pasture? No, of course. In summertime, we suffer from drought, and also we have to feed these animals, so we have to find a solution. And the other extreme, our soil. It's anything but sandy. We have heavy textured clay soils, which can be hardly cultivated. You can see my colleague there. He's not so strong to fold that big knife of a tool, but the soil can do it. So can you imagine the extremes? We are suffering from from the lack of precipitation. But if we have a heavy rainfall on a heavy textured soil, clay soil, with low permeability, then we have the excess water. And it doesn't go into the soil. It means the crops cannot utilize that water. It evaporates, and it is called evaporation loss. So it's quite a strange situation. And even here, one extreme, if you use direct seeding in such a clay soil, it's cracking immediately, and there is no contact with the seeds, and even the germination is zero. So I don't want to complain about our conditions, because I cannot change them. I mean the conditions, but what I always say, that we have to accommodate to the conditions will never accommodate to us. And we are humans, we are demanding, actually. So what we can do, can we change the climate? It's easy to answer because it's written there. Of course, no. Irrigation. We talk a lot about irrigation, and we have colleagues from Szarvas, they more focus on irrigation. But for our conditions, it's not the only solution, and not the best solution. I told you why. Because of the low permeability of the soils, the low infiltration rate of the soils. If you just irrigate, but it doesn't go to the root zone, you did nothing. Even you wasted a lot of money and water. So what can we do? Can we change the soil properties? We cannot change the soil, of course, itself. But partly we can change the soil properties. And you mentioned different crop species and varieties. Of course, we have to accommodate to the changing conditions by breeding as well. I think the next presentation will be partly about that. So I don't want to go into details and focus on the crop varieties. What we say that you have to use region-specific crop varieties, preferably that were bred in that region and genetically accommodate to the conditions. So all these together, I call it, we must be soil doctors. It's coming from my history because my parents were medical doctors. So I think it's the same. If a human is ill, sick, you have to use medicines, you have to examine him or her, whatever. We have to examine the soil, and we have medicines. Like what? I show you. One medical treatment can be tillage, soil cultivation. What we have experiments with, and what we are focusing in terms of research, is not minimum tillage, because it doesn't work with us, but we call it reduced tillage. Reduced means the reduced number of tillage operations without plowing. And this is what I try to teach in Kazakhstan as well. It's even more difficult there, especially because they have huge lands. So why we should turn from conventional tillage based on plowing, turning up the soil, to reduce tillage? You have already told the answers. We have to improve our soils physically, chemically, biologically, in a cost-effective, soil-protective, and soil moisture preserving way. Soil moisture preservation, we don't have more water. We have to preserve what we have. And I mentioned that we have irrigation, precipitation out of the season. So if we can preserve as much as possible, then we can support our crops. Why? So I am a researcher, so I can think only as a researcher, sorry. And I would like to just highlight some results we have in our research center during the last 30 years or so. And I can prove that these treatments are working. So increased soil moisture retention, you can see in case of reduced tillage, in every layer of the soil moisture content is higher. This is a typical soil surface after reduced tillage without plowing, and that one is the conventional plowing. So once a group of international students visited my research center, and we showed them the tools of of tillage, and there was a big plow. It was very rusty. And one of the students asked, why this plow is so rusty? And I said, if it wasn't rusty, the rector would kick my ass for sure. Because it means that we use it. Microbiological activity. We are talking a lot about carbon dioxide emission, whatever, and the health of the soils. You mentioned that as well. In case of reduced tillage, we can increase the microbiological activity, so it gives more life to the soil. And we can measure this through the carbon dioxide emission. And any cases, because of the better soil conditions, higher moisture content in the soil, we can enhance the microbiological activity. Of course, what the farmers are interested, they don't care about microbiological activity most of the time or moisture content. They want to know the yield. And you can see these are the averages of different years and different crops. And any time the reduced tillage is a bit better. Even it would be the same level of yield, the lower costs could pay for this. Another strategy, the medical treatment number 2, is soil conditioning. Recently we are talking a lot about, not about soil reclamation with natural products, but soil conditioning. There are a lot of soil conditioners. At least in Hungary now they offer more than 400 different types, but of course the farmers do not know which are the best for their conditions. This is just, maybe it is visible that after the application of a soil conditioner, after 6 years, we could increase the humus layer from 10 centimeters to 20 centimeters. Of course, it's much better for the crops. But if somebody says you can increase everything within 1 year, they are lying for sure. Okay, soil conditioning, also good effect on soil moisture content. In each layer of the upper soil layers, the soil moisture content was higher according to our measurements. If we used a soil conditioner, I was fair and I covered the name of the product. I mentioned you compaction of the soil, the heavy texture, high clay content. It's very, very important for us how much energy we need to cultivate our soils. And if you use soil conditioners, you can see the reduced tillage with conditioner is the lower, the green curve, illustrating the penetration resistance of the soil. So how much power is needed to cultivate the soil, of course. And in the case of the conventional tillage, we needed much more. It means less energy, less fuel consumption, even less contamination to the air by gasoline. Traction power demand is in close correlation with the penetration resistance of the soil that we could figure out. We measured this in Slovakia. We have a special electronic cell. We can measure how much traction power is needed for the tractor to pull the different tools. And in case of the conditioned soil, this demand is lower. Of course, again, yields are important. These are the averages of several years in case of maize or corn, and you can see in reduced tillage, if it is a combination of soil conditioning and tillage, the highest value is reduced tillage with the soil conditioner, and the lowest is the control, I mean the conventional tillage without the application of soil conditioner. Third and last, treatment possibility is also popular now, the so-called plant conditioning. You can spray foliar fertilizers, conditioners on the crop. Of course, it is just an acute medical treatment, because if you improve your soil, it has an effect on the crop. if you just improve your crop, it has not any effect on the soil. It's not like that exactly, but we don't have time for that. And I'm too sleepy now to explain. So we measured the chlorophyll concentration of the leaves, and we could figure out that if the chlorophyll concentration is higher, it means that the crops can resist to the different stresses more. So drought is one of the stresses, of course. So in this case, you can increase the stress resistance of different crops. Of course, increased yields due to plant conditioning. You can see we applied 3 different plant conditioners, and all 3 resulted in higher yields compared to the control. Condi 1 was the best one. In the break, I can give you the names of the conditioners for 10 euros. And also another for sweet corn, for example, the conditioned sweet corn had higher yield. That was another complex experiment when we used irrigation. We involved irrigation, but also we involved deficit irrigation, which means we just supply the fraction of the total demand. And the point is, what I want to highlight, that even with deficit irrigation, so less water consumption and use with a plant conditioner, you can achieve a higher yield. We also try these plant conditioners for grasses. Maybe it could be interesting for you. Of course, we want to eat mutton, that's why. So we are selfish. If we can feed our sheep, the mutton stew will be better. And these plant conditioners are working for grasses as well. Even we can elongate the vegetation period a little bit. So it means that we can shorten the feeding time of the sheep with other fodders. And the yields, they have some effect, but not so much positive as croplands, but still we can figure out an increase in the yields in the biomass of grasses. So the conclusions, the summary: application of soil protective tillage, like reduced tillage, positive effect on soil structure, soil moisture regime, soil temperature regime, soil fertility, and increasing the yields in a cost-effective and environment-friendly way. Application of soil conditioners, positive effect also on soil structure, soil moisture regime, soil compactness, microbiological activity, and soil fertility and yields. And application of plant conditioning has a positive effect on stress tolerance of the crop and the yields, both above ground and below ground biomass. So as a conclusion, but I am a soil scientist, so we prefer soil conditioning, because what is useful for the soil, it's useful for the crop, but what is useful only for the crops, not for sure that is useful for the soil as well. And thank you much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Director Zsembeli. As the next presentation, I would like to introduce, we have a board called Tropical and Subtropical Group Board dealing with the region and regional activities of MATE. I don't want to talk much because I know that András also can talk the whole day or has the presentation. So we just discussed that he will be also brief. I don't want to take much of the floor, but I'm very glad that he could also join us. They have quite a number of activities in the region, so please welcome his presentation as well. András Halász is joining us.
Dear guests, thank you for your still await attention. Hopefully nobody too hungry yet. I will try to be very compact and try to translate my and our group's message to all of you regarding about drought management and our experience in the Sahel region. Not just in Africa actually, but I will mention some field experience from Asia as well. I've been in Mongolia as well, and I can join to the Kazakhstan experience as well. So there are so many overlaying experience and knowledge transfer, vice versa. So we always repeating and always sending the message that we want to learn from every country where we visiting. So we are not just telling from academic height what you should do, but we also learn how to manage problems all around in the agricultural sector. Okay, it's very theatrical title, Road of Dust. You will understand why. There was a serious accident 3 years ago in Hungary on the M1 motorway, which was caused a dust storm, and unfortunately many people died in this accident, and more than 60 cars collided on that section, and it's still investigated what happened really. But there is one conclusion already made and drawn, that soil management was one of the main reason why this happened. And it was very serious, and we're still thinking about if we're mentioning cover crops, intercropping, makes no difference what kind of plants you manage or how you're utilizing your land, but you have to utilize the land day and night, 365 days. You cannot leave your land uncovered. That's the point. And it's connecting with soil conditioning. Totally agree. Manure, organic matter, whatever, just put something on the surface to prevent this kind of phenomena, because it can be turning very serious way. The other message which I want to translate here is resilience is silent and deep like roots. It's a very theatrical also, but sorry for that, I'm very theatrical, so it's my students know that. But the truth, how to use, how to utilize the resources what any country has, especially if you're talking about agriculture, it's rooting in culture and in traditions. That's why I put this Ethiopian picture on the slide, and the Ark of the Covenant is also a very wide-known symbol of symbolizing different cultures and different religion and different approach how to utilize land. What is important for a nation or for people over there, for farmers? So it's a different approach for livestock farming, different approach on crop production, different approach if we're talking about horticulture, is different approach if we're talking about livestock farming only in the middle of the Sahel region. So it's a kind of, there's not every time that the people over there, you know it much better than me, that there are so many conflicts as well. So it's very, very hard to balance this. But we have to understand the real roots and the motivation behind them. The other one is like, just connecting and just keep going with this. The source of conflicts is like tribal conflicts and traditions also. But if we're going further in traditions, and it's our own experience within our developing group as well, that what we learned first time in the very beginning, in the very first visit, what we made, that the customary law for land use is very, very important. To understand how to people, local people, the land ownership is going on in any country. To understand that it's governmental owned, it's a private land, or it's a common land which is shared by the village, the village inhabitants, or what is the story? Is it written or it's an unwritten law? It's also important. And if we're talking about the European point of view, from our case, it's like from the Hungarian perspective, and sorry for that, but I'm a grassland expert as well, so I'm always starting my stories from grazing and grasslands, not from crops and horticulture. But the point is that we always desiring and we demanding mosaic landscape. We are paying for that. And that's where we would like to get extra subsidies and any support to keep up this kind of landscape. And it's connecting with not just with tourism, but it's also for land utilization, and it's deep rooting in our culture. So if you're talking about just vine production, you will understand that we would like to consume our own agricultural products in a mosaic environment. So some forest, some bare land, some crop fields, some horticulture fields, some cow in the corner, but not vast homogeneous agricultural land is desired. We much more preferring the mosaic approach. And there's a nomadic point of view that we should, and we learned that, which is deep rooting in our old traditions, long back in our own history as well, that the livestock is money. So if I'm talking about livestock management, and I'm mostly talking about livestock management because the grazing, we should understand that one cow is one bird or one full salary for one family for 1 year. So it's a very valuable asset, and that's where we should start to keep up. So we are not, it's absolutely not allowed to let cows die in starvation or because the drought. We have to feed them, and we have to think about that, to how to keep them alive, because it's like keeping alive our bank account. It's the same story at the end of the day. So that's why the cow is sitting on money. It's not about big holdings. It's about a family farm also for 1 or 2 cows at the very end with 100,000 cows on the other side. But the point is always the same. What can be the solutions? I was thinking many times through our experience how to work together and how to improve the local ideas and local practices. You mentioned the skill necessity, how far the local people working in agriculture, how many of them, what percentage of them is skilled or not skilled. This depends. My opinion is not just academic skill exists, learning through experience also very important, the field experience. And that's where we end with this. I will mention in a later slide more than this, that digestible fiber you should focus on if you're talking about feeding animals. My role here, and I'm responsible for forage production in our team, so I was always talking about animal feed more than human food production. But so that's why I'm always mentioning digestible fiber, but it's also important for people as well. And you will understand at the end of this lecture that why not protein is the main point. I sending the message to the students that you should remember that forget crude protein. It's not the point, okay? Because crude protein is the most expensive feed nutritional part in the TMR. So you should focus on the fiber, the carbohydrate part, and the energy content of the food. It's true for human food as well. Okay, and we need drought tolerance and high yield as well. that's where the alfalfa and all other protein content plants comes in. So what we are thinking, and what was one of our solution, is a kind of rotational grazing in oasis network. That's what we called it, in the northern Sahel region, where the only water source only in oasis and some feeding plots. What is the improvement in the very old traditional way, transhumous nomadic livestock farming, is the bale depots or the hay depots. So actually this is the hardest part, to convince the local farmers. It makes no difference what kind of, even Hungarian farmers hard to convince sometimes, to store ahead winter forage, and sometimes not just for the winter but for the drought period. And we just discussed with my international students last time from Nigeria, for example, that the Harmattan period was very serious, and there are more and more farmers preparing for this section of the year with cutting hay. But it's not obvious to cutting hay because this enormous size of land with grazing. So the old tradition says keep going and moving with your animals and following the water and the forage itself. It makes no difference, or it's very hard to understand for them to prepare with forage as well, not just with the water. So that's the new approach in the old oasis system, and the arrows showing the way how to rotating the feeding areas. Okay, some examples. I have many pictures, so there's less talk, more visible message. So first, I would like to connect with some ideas about maize. If you ask me, and my personal opinion, that forget maize in Africa, especially if you're talking about drought. I know it's hard to understand or to accept, but because the water necessity and the water demand for this plant is, I cannot say that it's low. That like you showed us examples what drought can cause in a maize field. It's a total disaster. It's happening in Hungary as well. So I have some experience with southern Hungary, that some big plots where they're mentioning that they are thinking about sorghum instead of maize, which is very traditional in Africa. So that you have actually more experience with sorghum than maize. So I try to understand why is that most of the farmers asking us that help with the maize production in Africa. And I try to understand why is that. And it's just my impression. It's maybe not the full truth, but my impression is that because the high yield and because the high starch content in maize. But there's less information spreading in Africa about the weed control and the other extra costs on maize. So what I try to convince that if you're thinking about conserved TMR-based mass raw material for your animals, you should thinking about other plants than maize, just because the water and because the water demand. So like, for example, Maralfalfa was our first plant in the Sahel, where we experienced that this plant can be cut every 6 weeks if you have some irrigation, flood irrigation, gravitational irrigation in the region. I was actually totally surprised that when we asked that, what about water source? And they said that water is not a problem in the Sahel. And as I said, it depends what part you're talking about. So if you are close to a river or any big water body, like or a lake, it cannot be a problem, and the irrigation can happen with flood irrigation, definitely. So without pumping, that's the point. That the fuel shortages is a serious asset as well. We experienced that Mar alfalfa is one of the most successful plant in the Sahel, and I found some, and we made some laboratory work as well. What are the nutritional content of the Mar alfalfa? I'm not sure you see from the back rows, but the point is the fiber content, as I mentioned at the beginning. So forget crude protein. Crude protein is not that important. It is important, but it's not that important if we're talking about mass production. So if you want to feed your animals with tons of green forage, you shouldn't start with protein. You should start with some digestible fiber, sugar, carbohydrate, and that's why the fiber content is important. Yeah, organic matter content and so on, but this plant is actually and is still very important for us, which is my perspective and my approach, that we're thinking here in Hungary in grass hay, which depends what this year will be a disaster as well, it seems, but you mentioned maybe in Szarvas that you have some prediction for rainfall in the next 4 months, maybe. Tell me that, please. We are praying for rain, more rain, because the grass hay production is in danger. Professor Zsembeli mentioned 2022 was the last serious drought in the last 100 years. We hadn't that serious drought. So these extremes are coming, and Mar alfalfa is a perfect plant for this kind of conditions. I was still thinking that what about Hungarian Mar alfalfa? I was still recommending, depends maybe will allow or not, but for research purposes we can do that. Okay, sorghum is also a very widespread and very traditional plant, both for human consumption and for animal feed. Again, natural detergent fiber, DM percentage. Students, remember for that, NDF is the most important nutritional factor in a forage report. Check NDF first. Forget crude protein, okay? So it's more than 60% in the Sudanian version, and it's more 50% in the forage sorghum. So it's a very good plant, and it has a high yield as well, and it's a drought-tolerant plant, and it's much more success plant than the maize itself. This is the replacement for maize. Even in Hungary, we are still thinking in this. Okay, native grass. You mentioned rose grass and Napier grass in Tanzania. I will close in with Tanzania. Thank you for your previous informations, because it gave me ideas. So natural detergent fiber here is more than 70%, which is, why is that important? I have to, sorry for the late time, but I have to share with this, because it's very important, why the glass and why the hedgehog is here. You should understand how a natural fiber works. Okay, you probably remember with cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin, these three fractions of different type of fibers, where the lignin is non-digestible in this case, and the percentage of the lignin decides that is it a digestible or hardly digestible forage, if you're thinking in. But if you'd be talking about digestible part, cellulose, hemicellulose, we're talking about breakable, or so it's easier or hardly breakable fiber. That's where the glass comes in, because I've been in a conference where the lady was introducing a very interesting lecture about alfalfa and grass fiber. And what we should understand worldwide, because the alfalfa is one of the most important protein source for forage, for animal forage, but it has a higher lignin content. We should understand that the alfalfa is like glass, if we're talking about fiber content. Because again, alfalfa high in crude protein. However, there are also fiber in it, especially in the straw part, and for cows, especially if we're talking about dairy farming, it's a very big issue if we put too much percentage of alfalfa in the total mixed ratio. So in the mixed food. So we're thinking about alfalfa like breaking glass. Easy to digest for a cow for the beginning when she eats it, but it disappears after 24 hours. After 36 hours and 48 hours, the grass starts to work in the rumen, in the cow's body, in the digesting system. So when we're talking about structural fiber or higher digestible fiber content, we should thinking about grass and mud alfalfa and this kind of plants like a hedgehog. Because the small hedgehog, when she is like that, or the cactus within the hedgehog, it's actually sticking the rumen interior and is active, keeping in movement the rumen mixture activity, and that helps for the consuming more dry matter, and at the very end the digestibility will be much better if you have more grass or this kind of or grass type of TMR sections in your feed. But we should talk about protein, of course, and soya bean, everybody knows soya as a #1 protein, but in the Sahel region we found some other alternative source as well, like the cotton cakes or even the nuts, which were surprisingly imported many times from other countries. So it's a new opportunity for horticulture to produce more protein with different hazelnuts or different horticulture type of protein, or beans you mentioned. So it's a very good source, more than 20% protein, but it's very important that it has to be crushed, because otherwise it's non-utilizable for the cow. So it makes no difference. The cow rumen works perfectly, but the enzymes and the bacteria in the rumen cannot access for the protein if it's not crushed. It will be end in the manure without crushing. Moringa, it's also a very interesting plant. Crude protein more than 20%. We are happy to have this, including the leaves also edible for the animals, like camels and cows as well. So if you're thinking about supplementing protein, the region as well. Have precipitation of very, very low, so less than 200 millimeter. So it's total disaster as well. But what they do actually, on the northern part of the country, they're producing oats. And they have loads of oat, straw and hay baled and delivering to the other part of the country to feeding camels and goats and cows. Mixing with soya, of course, because the oats don't have that much crude protein. And if you're thinking about human consumption, and if you have for breakfast the grinded oats or the oatmeal, you already know that it's a slow fiber. So if you're eating for breakfast, you won't be hungry so far now. But the cows and the ruminating animals knows or works the same way, so they need the slow fiber as well, supplementing with crude protein source, which is 45% in this case, with this Chinese version of soya. That's the Mongolian structure of feeding animals over there. There's also interesting plants for me is the garlic chives or sheaves, is metélő hagyma in Hungarian. you probably met in Kazakhstan as well with this plant. I was so surprised about the smell, about the taste. The farmers showed us that, come on, kneel down and eat the garlic from the ground. And it is the garlic there. But you see the environment is not so friendly for an intensive type of cow or any type of animals. So it needs an extensive breed to withstand this kind of environment. That's why the poo is in macro picture. It's very interesting for me as a researcher because it's showing that how much digested fiber left in the system at the very end. Okay, and then this is the plant. It's fully edible, even the root system as well. And why the Mongolian grassland is so interesting, and it's very similar to the Hungarian grasslands around Karcag, for example, őszi rózsa and csillagrózsa aster genus. Altaic aster is a kind of herb which has high mineral content and it has a very special taste as a spice. So even if you buying any raw meat from this kind of grasslands, you feel the difference and even the smell and the taste just because this plant or this kind of plants on the region. So if you're thinking about branding your stuff from your grassland, think about your own plant conditions and different plant species because it gives us extra spice for your product as well. Haymaking, it's very simple and very basic. There's nothing special. What was rainfall comes with the wind. Is a horticulture, livestock, or anything, you have to know where you can expect, which direction you're expecting the rain itself. We also talked about Juncao Napier grass hybrid. It's a very interesting plant, and it's more than it's a Juncao green. The crude protein content is about 8%, and it's about 60% about the NDF. So it's still a sugar source. It's not a crude, it's not a protein source. It's like Mara alfalfa in the other part of the Sahel. Huge plant, very massive yield. However, be careful with this, not just to buy it, and we should be very cautious with this because there is no domestic seed production for that. So you have to import the nodes from China. So it's a strong dependency. So Juncao is a magic grass. That's the nickname of this plant. But it's more than 40 tons per hectare, so it's massive, and it can be cut regularly. However, the dependence is also a very good point, and the very end, and it's not agriculture, it's about food production. I'm not sure, you see here with my student, what we discussed yesterday actually about Tanzanian milk production. The Assas milk and the Miso, the Hungarian version of healthy milk. If you're looking the package, you mentioned the packaging problem in tomato. It's also true for any food product. And if you're looking at the Miso box or the holder itself and the packaging, you will see a part of green and the black, so it's kind of color combination. Also in the Tanzanian version as well. What is the difference is the the shade of the color. And that's why the pepper and tomato and the smiling and the sad smileys here, because if you remember the beginning of my slides, I mentioned the cultural differences and the different approach, that the different colors means different approach. So if you're talking about Eastern African market, the green means healthy. If you ask any housewife or buying in a Hungarian market, you won't choose the green, you will choose the red one just because it means healthier and more delicious. But as I found it, that in Tanzania, maybe it's not completely true, it's maybe just a bias, but like the red could be mean that there is more pesticides on it. So the local buyers and customers won't buy the red ones just because they expect more chemicals on it. Because the red could be mean, so the green means organic and the red means chemical. And that's why the smiling and the sad face in that. Thank you very much. And the all greater than the sum of its parts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, András. And after the quite interesting scientific approaches and presentations, we have two more. So I beg for your patience. We have two more very interesting presentations. At the university, our bridges, our ambassadors are the students for the knowledge transfer, for the future collaborations. But we would like to expand, we would like to involve more international students to this program. So I would like to ask Dr. István Réti, our colleague, to present, to introduce this Future Leaders program which we have at the university and talk about some relevance to this.
Thank you very much. Some remarks related to any events like this. Communication-wise is a challenge to talk about something you love. Here, one experience of mine, I was invited to a company to give a workshop on building trust. This is an international company, it's called Unilever. And when I arrived, this was a workshop for the leadership of the company. And when I arrived, I prepared my slides, of course, and my first slide was on when the management team entered the room. And I could see their faces non-verbally, totally refusing the event, saying, okay, some smart guy showed up again, and he's trying to teach us how the company works. And this was 2 times 90 minutes, so it was like a 3-hour event. And after the first 90 minutes, still my first slide was on the picture. And the faces were now smiling, you know. And the CEO of the company comes to me in the break and says, listen, István, do you have any more slides? I said, no, this is my only slide. I thought about putting one that says, thank you for your attention, but I can say that, so I don't need a slide for it. There are many slides here, but I won't show you all the slides. I just want to share some thoughts that I processed during your very valuable presentations. Number one is that I can see here a common
Thank you very much. And last but not least, we have a guest from Ghana. We found it also important to have another aspect. As I mentioned, that we have private sector representatives here as well. And as we are deeply collaborating with private sector partners in agriculture and in many ways, we have a guest from Ghana who is representing the business sector. He will talk about the economic aspects or the
lot of causes and impact of drought. Likewise, the learned colleagues or speakers have also made quite exposing revelations with regards to like academic and practical like experience. So I will run through and touch basically on the impact of drought with regards to SMEs in Africa. Okay, so this is what we are being faced with. Drought is an ancient discussion. This is not the first time the world is experiencing drought. And we are saying that when when the rain fails, it's not only the crops that die, but now it's the dreams of millions of like African like entrepreneurs that which are being affected. This is a graphical representation of the impact of drought in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, it's undoubtedly clear that Africa is a drought zone. If you look at the skimming colors depicting the various severity of drought in the African region, it's clear that we are really faced with a devastating crisis, and pragmatic solutions are required to respond to the exigencies of some of these things. This also shows millions of crops being lost. This is a time series depicting millions of crops being lost, like over the period from 1991 to 2021. My brother from Tanzania made quite like an exposing revelation on how drought hits like Africa. And predominantly, we're looking at a drastic like reducing crop yields. We're looking at the livelihood of livestock being affected. We're looking at the soil degradation. We're looking at increase of cost of like irrigation and disrupted planting cycles. Like you said, it's quite difficult to turn when to plant some of these traditional crops. Traditionally in Ghana, they will say that maize planting commences a month before the raining season begins. But because you cannot tell when the rain will start, it's also difficult to also match up with some of these planting cycles. It's also put a very huge dependency on food import, meaning that it's creating food scarcity, and that, for that matter, there's a need to, supplement the local economy. There's another graph that is also showing erratic rainfall disruptions and also temperature of Africa, which I believe my African brother also highlighted that last year they received a very high temperature affecting reserved waters for irrigation. Now, this is a brief consequence of the drought as depicted like earlier. We're looking at water scarcity, we're looking at crop failure, we're looking at food security and market contraction. For we as business owners, this is very important to us because of the value chain like activities that we engage like in the whole like agriculture value chain process. So anytime there's drought, there's a drastic interruption of our value chain like activities. and most importantly, the risk of jobs being lost. 60% of like African population depends on like agriculture, undoubtedly. We find ourselves in a peasant community farming where every like, household, some way, somehow, depends or have a backyard garden or is being or relying on agriculture kind of activities, being crops or fishing or pastoral kind of farming. So it is important that we look at the issue of drought and its impact. It also depends on SMEs, that is the farming and the rural market, leading to the survival of small-scale businesses. These are ripple effects that has been caused by drought. Now, to the main subject. SMEs, like myself, we are into the aggregation of food commodities for major manufacturing firms, i.e. Nestle, Unilever in Ghana. We buy from cooperative farmers who plant maize, wheat, sorghum, cassavas and stuff, and we supply to some of these big firms. Now, with the impact of drought, we are not able to meet our framework agreement with these manufacturing firms because before the year will commence, there is a framework agreement that we signed with these big entities that we will supply this amount of farm produce or products that within a year, and prices are being fixed or locked based on the inflation rate. But if you are being hit with an unexpected disaster like a drought, it becomes difficult for you to honor the part of your bargain. So in short, we're looking at the impact on large manufacturing firms. We're looking at production slowdown because we are not able to supply them on time. Capacity is being underutilized. We're looking at the rising cost of commodities. When it happens, a bag of maize that may cost, let's say, $50 because of scarcity, demand and supply will set in, and it will definitely triple or go up, which tends to distort the revenue patterns. And also increase imports as subsidiary for some of the produce that we look out for, and most importantly, the loss of jobs. So a classic case is in the it's a Zambia farmer who relies on the national grid of electricity to power his irrigation. And when there's drought, the national grid also depends on the man-made lake or river to power the turbines. So these are the ripple effects. He's been forced to rely on improvised solar energy to power his farm or conduct his irrigation. He also, SMEs are also faced with reduced operating hours, meaning that when they are drought, our businesses are quite stagnant. There's no crops. There's no farmers to aggregate product for you. So the personnel that you've hired or you've put on the field, you still have to pay them, regardless of the absence of materials. Then governments introduce of solar and generator loan schemes. This is also a burden on the overall investment cost of operations, which is being seen as a ripple effect from the drought. Most importantly, SMEs are showing resilience, but a high financial and emotional cost. This is a classic case from Ghana. I overheard the previous speaker talking about why Africa grow so much maize. And the question is, maize contribute to 60 to 70% of the household food that we eat. Every food that we eat in Ghana or Africa contains some kind of maize. And we talk about the kenke, we talk about the bink, we talk about everything that we eat, maize from the base. So maize is very important to us. Poultries are also not spared of this plague. Poultry feed are being made out of maize. So when there's drought, whilst human beings are being suffered, SMEs are being hit, the poultry also goes on a hunger strike. And this farmer is saying that the feed of price rises every month. Drought has a survivor gamble because the impact of drought creates the absence of better yield for the maize. Likewise, those in the cassava production who prepare cassava cake for the brewing companies. In Ghana, we have a beer made out of cassava, very nice, crispy beer, and the raw material is cassava. And people have invested in cassava processing machines. When it happens, the machines stays silent. The gender dimension cannot be taken out from this conversation. Women play a very important role in the local Ghanaian SME. Women take care of every household, and the activities being trading in farm product goes a long way to impact the household, and likewise the local or the micro economies. Women are not being spared, they are equally affected in this regard. There's been an emerging adaptive strategy, which I believe my brother highlighted. I was quite surprised that he went straight to some of these strategies. Over the years, these conversations of drought resistance cease in the form of crop improvement. Traditionally, crop improvements are to give better yields and withstand adverse weather conditions. But I think that conservatively, there are discussions on specifically drought resistance seeds. Also, solar irrigation programs have been launched, water harvesting, farm cooperatives, mobile advisory apps, and training and workshops in the form of extensive officers strategy. The policy gaps are quite clear with regards to the SME conversation. Finance-wise, there's limited access to funding. There's also weak rates of insurance. We can also look at a poor rural service in terms of infrastructure and inadequate support programs, and then lack of policy alignment. What we are saying is that the SME voice are often missing from national conversations. What can be done? In this quadrant, we're looking at the role of the government, the role of the private sector, the role of development partners, and the academia. Today, I'm quite excited because I've learned a lot. I've been exposed to quite revealing academic research. And I think that there's more that can be done. The academia can conduct relevant research, provide policy insight for decision makers, the parliamentarians, and the government, and also help us amplifies the voice of the SME. Then we look at developing partners, the UNICEF, the World Health Organization, and all, to come up with fun adaptation, technologies where SMEs can help access funds, regardless of where we are. One of the speakers said that if we need funds, we should join the EU, which I find it quite interesting. But of course, some of these things, can be looked at or be done. Then also to promote community-based solutions that have been tailored towards the specific, geographical and cultural anthropology settings. The government, most importantly, can look at like investing in water infrastructure, strengthen early warning systems, and expand climate smart like agriculture. We will end by saying that drought is not just an environmental disaster, it's an economic crisis, a social crisis, and a human crisis. And we think that supporting the SME in any form or shape will go a long way to enhance and build a resilient agriculture value chain system. On this note, I would like to thank you for your audience. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, thank you very much for your kind attention, for your time, and we look forward to see you at our next session. And as I mentioned, it was a kickstart of a series that we are planning to organize. So we hope that you will come time to time for our discussions. We are planning think tanks and different setups for sharing ideas, not only on African but different other regions. For the closing, I would like to give the opportunity, as it was mentioned, for questions. If there are any questions you would like to address towards our guests or our presenters, please feel free and take the chance. I have a microphone here with me.
I try to close, yeah, that's try to finish. No, first of all, I think it's everybody has a question. We have the good opportunity with the light lunch to raise the question directly to the distinguished guests, and it's about the timing. The European Parliament has a lot of difficulties, problems, but to be short, it's an obligation. Yeah, that is really, and we learned it. If somebody speak about, I will be short. No. That's you can be sure. That will be double speaking time. This is the second one. First, invitation to the right lunch, discussion directly. The second one is many thanks to the high level of the speakers. Many for the many thanks. This really, I think it was very useful for everybody for the different reasons. Myself, I learned a lot, and I have get really from you really a lot of inspiration for the further possible work, and how can you connect it, Hungary, EU, and sometimes not easy, and the African issues. The third one is it was mentioned that you went to Kazakhstan. Yeah, that is okay. I would prefer in your place if it's possible. But for Kartsakh it's almost impossible to do it not to Kazakhstan. Yeah, but a special issue. We know it. Yeah, no. But it's a big advantage in Africa. Big advantage of Africa. Don't forget it. It's no jet lag. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with these remarks, if there's no question, I don't know if there are any, I would like to also conclude. Thank you very much, and again, thank you for your kind attention. Please, you can proceed towards, we have a little reception, and I would like to encourage you to share knowledge, because again, I'm very glad that we have quite a number of good people around here, and very well experienced in the region and in this subject. So thank you very much for coming again, and enjoy the rest of the day.